From 1878 to 1968, there were 71 lake captains that called Bayview, Wisconsin, on the shore of Lake Michigan, their home. While they lived here, they captained 195 different ships, from tugboats to schooners to steamships, in voyages that took them to every one of the Great Lakes. Join us now for another episode of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains, where we explore not only these captains, but also their ships, their homes, their families, and their lifetime of sailing adventures on the Great Lakes.
Well, hi again everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains, where we talk about the 71 different lake captains that once lived in Bayview, Wisconsin during the age of sail and steam from 1878 to 1968. Now today is a little bit different. Yours truly did not do a good job of planning his filming, and so now it's fall and it's raining. So I can't film in front of the house of this particular captain for this episode. Sorry, no. Instead, you get to see me seated at the desk in the front parlor here at the historic Johanna Brach house, my house. She was Bayview's only female ship owner, and her husband, Captain John Brach, was Bayview's most prolific schooner captain. This episode, like all the others, is brought to you courtesy the historic Bayview Lake Captains Society. Now today we're going to talk about Captain Peter Halvorsen, who lived on South Indiana Avenue. Another Norwegian immigrant. Quite a few of them were. We have here in Bayview many of them that were lake captains that came from Norway. Peter Halvorsen was a schooner captain, and he immigrated in the early 1890s and spent the first 15 years sailing the Great Lakes professionally out of Chicago. He comes up here to Bayview, and not until he gets to Bayview does he become a lake captain. And I believe it's probably the same schooner that he captained, or that he served aboard in Chicago. I believe he captained once he got up here. And the reason for that is that the final documents were surrendered in Milwaukee. And so I think he was with the same ship all the way along. Don't know that, but it kind of looks that way. Peter Halvorsen, like I say, lifetime schooner captain. Schooners were tremendously populous in the Great Lakes. I read that there were as many as 4,500 of them during those schooner years, during those sailing years on the lakes in the late 1800s to early 1900s. And most of those were, not all of them, but especially the two-masted schooners, were basically small businesses. A lot of them were owned by the captain. Certainly happened in this house, where Johanna owned the schooners and her husband John captained them. That was pretty common. And so when Peter Halvorsen, Captain Peter Halvorsen, comes to Bayview, he decides to make a career change. Now, I think the reason for this career change was probably, he's older. You can see the writing. He could see the writing on the wall that schooners were phasing out. The age of sail was going away, and it was being replaced by steam. And so the question then would be, so you get a schooner's license. Now you got to go get a steamship license, and you're older. You're like 50 years old. Now, I will tell you firsthand, when you get older, you've learned everything, you're an expert in your little area, and the world is your oyster, so to speak, from a knowledge perspective. But unfortunately, the world changes, and you have to change with it if you want to keep going. And so that's not always fun. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of work. So it certainly happened to me. I don't want to change. No, I like it where I am. It's your comfort zone. And it will certainly happen to you all out there watching this video if it hasn't already. And the good news is it happens to all of us. And it happened to Peter Halvorsen, I believe. Now, he was sailing wooden ships throughout his career. Probably one, but schooners, wooden. And you spend 25, 30 years like he did, I believe he picked up some pretty substantial carpentry skills. And so when it came time to say, okay, do I want to take this plunge and dive into this world of steamship and apply and get my master's and take the tests and, my master's certificate for steamships and take the tests and pass all the boards, do I want to go through that? I think he said no. And I think he said, I think what I'll do instead is, I have these carpentry skills, I'll put them to work. And so I think and he's listed as not a carpenter after he leaves the sailing profession, but a house carpenter. Now, he was captain in Bayview for about 10 years while he lived on South Indiana Street in about 3 different houses. But then he lives in 2 more houses on South Indiana Avenue, so that's 5 total, maybe 6, can't remember. It's in the video coming up. And that last group, he wasn't a sailor anymore. He wasn't a lake captain, and he's listed as a house carpenter. So I believe what happened is he built those houses on South Indiana Avenue, that last group. He may have built the ones that he lived in before. Don't know that. I haven't looked. But it's possible. So that's, in a nutshell, Peter Halvorsen. Another interesting Bayview Lake captain. Hope you enjoy this video. Now, our narrator, Simon Stanhope, is going to walk you through all the details, so hang in there. Stay with us here. We got more to show here. And I will see you in the next episode. So I'll say hats. I'm inside, so I don't need my hat out here. Instead, I'll just say, thanks for watching. Hats off to our Bayview Lake captains. Take care, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Welcome to another installment of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains, where we discuss the lives of the 71 different lake captains that once lived in Bayview, Wisconsin, during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, in the age of sail and steam. This discussion will include their ships, their homes, their families, and their lifetime of sailing adventures on the Great Lakes. Here is the map of lake captains' homes in Bayview, to show you where this episode takes place. Its location focuses primarily on the large green arrow. Today we will be discussing the life of Captain Peter Halvorsen, who was born in Norway. After immigrating, he spent his first 15 years in Chicago working as a sailor. He then moved to Milwaukee, where he spent the next 5 years working as an officer on Great Lakes ships. It was then that he moved to Bayview and became a lake captain for the first time. After living in Bayview for 10 years and working as a lake captain, Peter Halvorsen then decided, at age 50, to leave the sailing profession to work as a carpenter. He remained in Bayview for another 17 years, until he died at age 67. Captain Peter Halvorsen was born in Norway in 1876. He immigrated in 1893 at age 17. It's unknown if he had any siblings. He appears to have immigrated first to Chicago, before later moving to Milwaukee and Bayview. Peter Halvorsen is shown in 1908, probably just before moving to Milwaukee, as co-owner of the schooner Libby Now while living in Chicago. Whether he brought this ship up with him when he moved to Milwaukee is unknown. Its final documents were surrendered in Milwaukee on 30th of June 1918, so it's possible this was the ship he captained from 1908 to 18 while living in Milwaukee and Bayview, but this is not confirmed. He then appears in Milwaukee from 1908 through 1912, working as a, quote, mate, unquote, and, quote, first mate, unquote. His ship or ships during this time are unknown. Again, it may have been the schooner Libby Now, though this is unknown. In 1914-15, Peter Halvorsen moved to Bayview at 3261 South Indiana Avenue. It is also the first year he is recorded as a lake captain. Over the next 10 years, he moved into 2 further different homes on South Indiana Avenue. 1916-20, 3141 South Indiana Avenue, confirmed as a lake captain, except for 1917, when he was a mate, and 1924, 3137 South Indiana Avenue, confirmed lake captain. His ship or ships during this entire period of time, 1914 to 24, is or are unknown. By 1926, he left the maritime profession permanently to become a house carpenter, remaining at 3137 South Indiana Avenue. He later moved to 2 more addresses on South Indiana Avenue, though no longer a lake captain. Incredibly, the total number of different houses he lived at on South Indiana Avenue over a 15-year period was 6. Peter Halvorsen married wife Florence in 1908 in Chicago when he was 32 and she was 22. Florence was born in England and immigrated in 1888. Her father was Norwegian, her mother English. They had one son, Orville, born in 1910, who grew up and moved out in 1930. Captain Peter Halvorsen died in 1943, aged 67. He is buried at the First Congregational Cemetery in South Milwaukee. Thanks for watching. This photograph isn't about Bayview or its lake captains, but it's from the same era of Great Lakes maritime history. We thought we'd close with it for enjoyment, as it captures the spirit of the era. If you'd like to read more details about Captain Peter Halvorsen, as well as the sources for the information contained in today's video, you can find these and more in the book Bayview, Town of Lake Captains, for sale now by individual volumes on both Amazon.com and HenschelHouseBooks.com. All proceeds from book sales go to support various maritime history projects related to Bayview's lake captains. One of these is a plaque and marker with the captains' names and addresses on it as part of the creation of the Bayview Lake Captains Historic District, which will be the first of its kind in America. If you would like to contribute to support these projects, to include this and other markers honouring Bayview's lake captains, with 100% of all donations and contributions in all forms going to support them, please consider contributing to us through the listings found on our website under the Contribute button. Note, we are not a 501c3, so contributions are not tax-deductible. If, for some reason, we are unable to secure these markers, then all funds donated to this site will be given as a cash donation to the museum ship SS City of Milwaukee in Manistee, Michigan. This is the only surviving intact ship that was once captained by a Bayview lake captain, and in its case was captained by at least 2, and likely 3, totaling over 20 years between them. Finally, we also have free self-guided walking tours of Bayview's 71 lake captains' homes, using only your phone. It's simple and easy. Just go to our website, shown here, find the item on the menu bar at the upper left named Free Self-Guided Walking Tours, and then scroll down to find the map with instructions. Zoom in by street. When you find a captain's house you're interested in, click on it and details appear on the right, along with a link to the YouTube episode from this channel that provides the biography of the captain that lived there. It's free, fun, and available any time you're out walking. Just bring along your phone. I'm Simon Stanhope, narrator for these episodes. Join us again soon for the next chapter of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains.